Chapter 1. The World Before History. Middle-earth was not always a land of fading magic. In the First Age, the world still felt raw. Power walked openly. Great choices carried immediate consequences. And violence was not only something armies did. In that age, violence shaped geography. It shaped cultures. It shaped the fates of entire peoples. Later ages remembered the First Age as legend, but it was not legend to those who lived it. It was a world that could still be broken, and it was. Chapter 2. Morgoth's Kind of War. The First Age began under the shadow of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord. Sauron wanted order. He wanted control. Morgoth wanted something deeper. He wanted the world itself. In Tolkien's later writings, there is an idea that explains why the First Age feels so extreme. Morgoth did not keep all his power within himself. He poured much of it into Arda, into matter, into the land, into the very substance of the world. So the battlefield was never just a place. The battlefield was reality. That is why First Age violence feels total. It is not only conquest, it is unmaking. Chapter 3. Oaths, Pride, and Self-Destruction. There is another reason the First Age is so violent, and it is uncomfortable. Much of the suffering is not caused by Morgoth alone. It comes from pride, from obsession, from oaths that cannot be taken back. The Noldor return to Middle-earth driven by loss and fury, and in their desperation they fracture. An oath becomes a chain, and a chain becomes a weapon. In the First Age, violence does not only come from enemies, it also comes from allies who can no longer stop themselves. This is a crucial tone difference. The Third Age is tragic, but the First Age is self-consuming. Chapter 4. The Siege of Angband and the Illusion of Safety. For a time, the elves hold Morgoth in. They establish the Siege of Angband. They build realms. They believe in borders. And in that long stretch, Middle-earth almost feels stable. But the First Age punishes stability, because Morgoth does not accept stalemate. He waits, he gathers, he breeds strength in darkness. And when he strikes, it is not a raid, it is a disaster. In the First Age, peace is rarely peace. It is a pause, a breath held too long. Chapter 5. Sudden Flame. Then the siege breaks, and the name Tolkien gives that moment tells you everything. Sudden flame. It is fire. It is shock. It is the end of an era. Defenses fail, strongholds fall. The map changes, and what follows is not just military loss. It is psychological collapse. Because if even the greatest kingdoms can be shattered overnight, then nothing feels permanent anymore. This is First Age violence, not constant battle, but sudden catastrophe. Chapter 6. Unnumbered Tears. After sudden flame comes desperation, and desperation leads to the battle of unnumbered tears. Even the title is not a celebration, it is a warning. This is the point where hope stops feeling rational. plans unravel, alliances break, and betrayal becomes as dangerous as any sword. The First Age does not only kill people, it kills futures. And after this battle, the great resistance in the north is broken, not in a single day, but in a way that cannot be undone. From here forward, many stories are no longer about victory. They are about surviving the end. Chapter 7. When Kingdoms Become Ruins. One by one, strongholds fall, hidden cities are found, secret realms are exposed, and legends become graves. This is where the violence becomes intimate, because the First Age is not only war on open fields, it is the destruction of homes. It is refugees. It is families scattered. It is languages and songs carried into exile. And it is grief layered on grief. By this stage, Middle-earth feels like a world running out of safe places. Not because there is no courage, but because the scale of the disaster is too large. Chapter 8. Monsters as Weapons. The First Age also feels more violent because of what fights in it. Not only soldiers, not only kings, but creatures that later ages can barely imagine. The first dragons appear in the wars of Beleriand, and they are not treasure-hoarding myths yet. They are instruments of terror. Even one dragon can break an army's will. Even one can reshape a battle's outcome. And in the deep places of Morgoth's realm, there are also Balrogs, not countless armies of them in Tolkien's later thinking, but enough to make the word itself feel heavy. This is important. The First Age is not just more violent because of numbers. It is more violent because of weight. Because when monsters enter a war stops being human scale. Chapter 9. The War of Wrath and the Drowning of Beleriand. In the end, the First Age does not conclude with a neat victory. It ends with intervention, with powers greater than kings. The War of Wrath is not described as a series of heroic duels. It is described through consequence, because its aftermath is the clearest statement of First Age violence. Beleriand is destroyed. Much of the land is swallowed by the sea. A continent, in effect, is erased. That is not symbolic language. That is the world changing shape. When people say the First Age was more violent, this is what they mean. Later ages have great wars, but the First Age ends with geography broken. Chapter 10. Why Later Ages Feel Smaller. So why does the Third Age feel calmer by comparison? Not because evil became gentle, but because the world became diminished. Power withdrew. Great beings faded. The extremes became rarer. After the First Age, Middle-earth is no longer young. It is used. It is scarred. The later world is what remains after the greatest violence has already happened. And that gives the First Age its terrible uniqueness. It is the era where everything is close to the source, close to creation, close to the great mistakes. Chapter 11. Closing Thought. The First Age is the most violent era of Middle-earth, because it is the age where loss becomes permanent, where victory is never clean, where even the land cannot recover. It is not just an age of heroes. It is an age of consequences, and the quiet of later ages is not innocence. It is what remains when a world has learned what true violence costs.